Can you beat Slay the Spire without ever pressing left or right? My goal for myself is to beat at least Act 1 without ever pressing left or right to see if the run is feasible. Just a disclaimer, I'm playing on the Xbox with an Xbox controller, so if you're playing on a PC or using a touchscreen, the run might look slightly different for you. So, if I can never press left or right, this means I have no choice in the order of the cards I play, no choice of the enemies that I target, no choice in the paths I take, no choice in the order I can buy things from the shops, and no choice apart from resting at resting sites. So, here are the rules for this run. My goal is to beat Act 1 without ever pressing left or right. If at any time I press left or right, I will save and quit and restart the encounter. I can only accept or reject card pickups that the game selects for me. I'm allowed to buy items from shops, but only in the order that's given to me from left to right. I'm allowed to use any potions I find, and I can press up and down. So, can I do it? Join me and let's find out.
Slay the spire, I'm gonna slay that spire.
For my first attempt, I chose the Ironclad and chose Niao's Lament. Now I must select the default path that the game has pre-selected for me. Combat starts, and I can only play the cards in the order provided. After an easy win, I get a choice of card. Now I can only accept or reject this card. I decide to reject it and move on. The next combat starts. And after an easy win, I get my first potion and add flex to my deck. On Xbox, when there are multiple targets, the game will automatically target enemies from left to right. I win and I add Twin Strike to my deck. The next combat had 3 enemies, so I chugged my strength potion to hopefully do some damage. It was annoying how often defends were coming up when I wanted to attack. After a much longer combat, I accepted the block potion, added reckless charge, and moved on. Now the first branching path appeared. On Xbox, the game seems to default to pre-selecting the second path every time. So without pressing left or right, we will always be heading down the second path in an intersection. The next event was an upgrade card event, and this is where things started to get weird. By default, the card selected for an upgrade appears to be the 9th card in the deck. As weird as it was, I can still move up and down, so I chose to press up and upgrade the strike card. The next fight was a bit tedious. Being entangled meant I couldn't play any attacks at all, and since I can't press left or right, I can't play any defends. But I pulled through and added another flex to my deck. The next fight was another slaver. And we come across our first status card. Now any status card or curse card can completely end my turn. Despite having 2 energy, I cannot move away from this card and I have to throw away my turn. I move on, and I made it to my first large group encounter. I thought it would be a good time to use the block potion to avoid the incoming damage. I had my turn stopped again by the Daze card, which was frustrating. I really must avoid any status cards or any curses at all costs. After a tedious fight, I move on and get a treasure chest. Inside was Omamori, which could prove helpful. The next combat was boring but manageable, and I got limit break out of it. The next combat was straightforward, but my health was starting to get low. I was able to get a duplication potion and headbutt out of the fight. The next fight took me down to really low health, but I survived and was able to get a weakness potion and fire breathing out of it. Now the weakness potion is in my second potion slot, and because you can never press right or left, you can never select a potion that is not in the first slot. So any extra potions I pick up are completely useless. So I cannot use this potion, sadly. I come across the merchant. Now I can buy cards, but it has to be in the order that the game gives to me. So I can only buy cards from left to right. I purchased Feed, and the game automatically highlights the next card, Carnage, which I purchased as well. I came across the Face Trader, and decide the only smart choice is to leave. I come to my first resting site, which is a much needed heal. But because left and right are not an option, I can only ever heal at resting sites. It was time for the boss. I used my duplication potion and did a double headbutt. Now remember, I can't choose my weakness potion, so unfortunately I couldn't survive the multi-hit attack. My first attempt was a failure.
Slay the spire, I'm gonna slay that spire.
For my second attempt, I relic swapped into Runic Dome. Now the extra energy could prove useful, and since I could not pick what cards I played anyway, knowing the enemy's intents wouldn't help much. This could actually be a useful relic swap. I breezed through the first fight, got an Essence of Steel potion, but I ignored the Clash card as I feel like it could ruin my run. I was able to blitz through the second fight. I got a Swift potion, but I sadly couldn't use it, and then I added a Havoc card to my deck. For the next fight, I decided to drink my Steel potion for some basic defense. Another fight done, and I added Anger to my deck. Next up was another easy fight. But I chose to ignore the body slam. The 4 energy was proving useful. In combination with 0 cards like Anger, I was able to sometimes play my entire hand, which felt really good. I got a power potion and added Feed to my deck. Next up was our first elite fight. The extra energy really helped power through this fight. Now I drank the power potion and selected the default middle card, but it gets added to the end of my hand, meaning I can't actually play it. So any potion that gives free cards from now on is only useful if my hand is empty. I lost a lot of health in the fight, but I was victorious, and I added the frozen egg to my relics. I stopped for a cheeky heal at the rest site. I had an uneventful fight against the 3 lice, and added bloodletting to my deck. Now we come to our first triple path choice. The game seems to preference the second option whenever there's 3 paths, so we'll be taking the middle road every time by default. Our next treasure chest had the Smiling Mask, which sadly is useless because I can never spend enough money to actually get to the card removal. I immediately came to a shop and decided to purchase Body Slam as well as Uppercut. I risked some health and got another relic for my trouble. Unfortunately, I don't think it was worth it. As much as I wanted to choose the resting site, the game's default choice of going to the second option led me into combat. I pulled through the battle with a slither of health and picked up the Ancient Potion, before picking up the question card relic from the chest. I entered the Thief fight with 4 health, and despite my best efforts, another game over.
Slay the spire, I'm gonna slay that spire.
For my third attempt, I chose Niao's Lament again. I won the first fight, and picked up an Entropic Brew and added Anger to my deck. I drank the Entropic Brew, and despite getting 3 potions, I can only ever use the first one. I flew through the next combat and added Headbutt to my deck. After smashing the next enemy, I decided to discard my attack potion and pick up the Elixir instead, before adding Iron Wave to my deck. The serpent offered me some gold for a curse. I knew how badly one curse card can mess up my hand, so I said no. For the next fight, I used my elixir and exhausted one defend. Now, despite being a tedious fight, something really weird happened here. Watch closely in slow motion. I did not press left or right at all, but because I was attacking so fast, the game switches targets to the middle enemy. I don't know why this happens, but it's super annoying because I didn't want to attack the middle enemy. So, because of this jank, I decided to restart the fight and redid everything the same up to this point again. This time the game did not skip to another enemy. And I survived the fight, and added Perfected Strike to my deck. I had another triple louse fight, and moved on to an elite battle. I survived my encounter with Gremlin Nob and gained the Courier Relic and moved on to the next encounter. We were fighting the Slaver again. And after beating him, I gained a Strength Potion and added Impervious to my deck. The game was teasing me. It gave me the Regal Pillow Relic, only to deny me the resting sight on the next choice. So frustrating. The fight with the thief was going well, but some more jank appeared. When I go to add a card to my deck, the leftmost option was highlighted. I never pressed left, but the game had a moment and decided left was the choice. I felt this was strange, so I saved and quit. But when I came back, the leftmost option was highlighted again. What is going on? No other battle has had this. I closed the menu and reopened it, and the middle one was highlighted now. This was so weird. If you have any idea why this is happening, please let me know. I didn't know what was the right choice, so I felt the most appropriate thing to do was to take no cards for this encounter. Next up was the Mushroom Boys. I drank my Strength Potion and pulled through with low health. Up next was the Merchant, and I purchased Sever Soul before entering the next encounter. I tried my best, but the Louse and me were both on 1 HP, and I just couldn't get the card pulls I needed to beat him. Run over.
Slay the Spire, I'm gonna slay that spire.
Attempt number 4. I chose Niao's Lament, destroyed the Lice, added Body Slam to my deck. I killed the Blue Boy, picked up an attack potion, wrecked the Slimes, added Twin Strike to my deck. Now the Cleric offered me an option to remove a card, and like before, the 9th card was pre-selected. But interestingly, if I save and quit, the first card is selected instead. So what's the correct choice? I couldn't decide what was the legitimate choice, so I opted to take the heal instead. The next fight was the Lice again, but the game did its jank targeting glitch again. I need to slow down. When I play fast, janky things start happening. I saved and quit to restart the fight, and pulled through to pick up a useless weak potion. And I added Thunderclap to the deck. Next up was Lagavulin, and unfortunately, despite my best efforts, I couldn't get the card combos needed to win the fight.
Mission failed. We'll get 'em next time.
Slay the Spire, I'm gonna slay that spire.
Attempt number 5. You know the drill. Niao's Lament was my first pick. I beat the first enemies, added Thunderclap, and I was asked to transform a card. Now I still can't decide what is the right card to choose. Do I choose the 9th card, that's the first card presented, or should I choose the very first card when I save and quit? I decided to save and quit and transform the first card. And I got Juggernaut out of this. I picked up the Fire Potion from the Cultist. I realised I was broke and I couldn't buy anything from the shops. I shredded my hands trying to get a relic, but it was worth it. I got the Akabeka relic, which increases my first attack by 8 damage. I visited the Merchant again, but I was still broke. I got another chest, and inside was the Gremlin Horn. I upgraded 2 random cards in the light, and then opened another chest to get the toy orthocopter.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
I added ghostly armor to my deck, and rested at the fire. Next up was a large slime blob. The fight was going well, and I decided to use my fire potion to wipe out one of the smaller blobs, which provided a small heal, and then the Gremlin's Horn gave me more energy. I made it through, picked up a colourless potion, and added Cleave to my deck. I also had another cheeky rest. I had the choice of a card removal. Now this is where the weirdest thing in the whole entire game happened to me. I've never seen this happen before. I decided to save and quit on the card transformation screen so it would select the first card, and on reloading, the entire shrine event was completely replaced. Instead of the shrine, Ranwid was there. As far as I understand, I thought all seeds were set in place, so no matter what you do, you'll always have the same run on that seed. So how could this possibly happen? I saved and quit again, and Ranwid was still there. Why did the event change? Why is this happening? In the end, I didn't have any answers. The only thing I could do was go ahead with the Ranwid event. I decided to give Ranwid my colourless potion, and he gave me the thread and needle relic in return. With this, it was time to take on the boss. Juggernaut was proving helpful. Every time I gained block, it was hurting the boss. And this included the thread and needle relic which Ranwid just gave us. The combination of Juggernaut with the Gremlin Horn proved helpful, and the extra energy helped out too. In the end, I did it. I was victorious. And I got a distilled chaos potion, and I added Immolate to my deck. For the boss relic, I could only press up or down, so I couldn't choose the busted crown. I didn't think the coffee cup or the Snecko eye would be helpful in the run, so I decided to leave all the boss relics alone. To save you some time, I made it all the way to floor 22 before I died to a chosen enemy. A dazed card stopped me from defending myself, and I could go no further. So there you go, I technically beat Act 1 without pressing left or right. But it just didn't feel right. I do not understand what happened with that shrine event. So, I wanted to do it all again, hopefully without anything weird happening this time.
Slay the Spire, I'm gonna slay that spire.
I failed 2 more times in my attempts to beat the first boss without pressing left or right. But the 8th run was a winner with nothing weird happening. For this run, I relic swapped into the Sacred Bark, which means all my potions will have double the effect. First fight was straightforward, and I added Inflame to my deck. Second fight was also easy, and I skipped adding the Body Slam. Next up was the Cleric, who offered me a heal. After that it was the 2 Lice, and after their defeat, I got a Distilled Chaos and added Anger to my deck. The World of Goop event happened next, and I decided to let the gold disappear to keep my health. Up next was a Flaming Elite battle. It was my old friend, Gremlin Nub. I thought it'd be a good time to use Distilled Chaos, which ended up playing the top 6 cards of my draw pile. It worked really well and made short work of Nub. I was able to pick up the Thread and Needle relic again, and the Emerald Key, and I also added Fiend Fire to my deck. Up next was the Slaver, and Fiend Fire made short work of him. I picked up the Explosive Potion, and added another Anger to my deck. The 3 Lice battle was up next, and with a double Explosive Potion, the fight ended straight away. I skipped the card drop and moved on to the treasure chest. The chest contained a bottled tornado, allowing me to always start with Inflame. I rested at the bonfire before taking on the Slaver. After beating the Slaver with the Fiend Fire, I picked up the Liquid Bronze Potion and skipped the card drop. Next up was a Louse and Cultist combo. And at the end of the fight, I found a dexterity potion, which I decided to pick up even though I can't use it. And I skipped the card drop. I rested again. I fought the slaver. Crushed him with Fiend Fire. Skipped the card drop. Rested again. And it was time for the boss. This was the perfect fight to use my liquid bronze potion, as every attack the boss made against me would cause him to take 6 damage from my thorns. The boss attacked and took 36 damage from the thorns. I used Fiend Fire to exhaust some weaker cards. The multiple angers were coming into play, allowing me to play my whole hand. A burn stopped me from playing some of my cards, but the thorns finished off the boss. I had done it. I'd beaten the boss without ever choosing left or right, and there was no jank or funny business about the run. I picked up the Gambler's Brew, added Immolate to my deck, and pressed down to grab the Broken Crown. So how far did I get? Well, to respect your time, I made it to floor 21. The fight was against the Sentry and the Spheric Guardian, which was a really annoying duo. Although I was able to beat the Sentry, a dazed card from the Sentry and a burn from my Immolate stopped me from doing enough damage in time. I tried to use a weakened potion to reduce the damage, but the artifact on the Spheric Guardian prevented the potion from working. He was only 1 hit away from dying, but I was 1 energy too short from winning. And I was beaten.
Slay the spire. I'm gonna slay that spire.
So, to answer the question, can you beat Slay the Spire without pressing left or right? Yeah, I think it is possible, but it's going to be heavily dependent on you being lucky. This was a fun run to try. You don't have to think very hard when playing, and the only real choices you have to make is whether to add a card or not, or when you should use a potion. After some more playing around, I had some further notes for anyone who wanted to try this run. First of all, I figured out a way to target any enemy you want without pressing left or right. If you select an attack and press A to play it, but don't confirm the attack, and then you look at your discard pile, and then press back to cancel, the cursor will move to the next enemy. You could use this to technically target whatever enemy you wanted to without pressing left or right. But I'll leave it up to you if you think this is against the spirit of the run. Thankfully I avoided this event, but the event with the 3 sentries is brutal. The likelihood of you getting a dazed in your hand is very high, and it's a very tedious fight to get through. I died 4 times to this fight in separate runs after this recording. The card from the wall event is still something that you could use to your advantage. With enough foresight, you could put something really powerful in there that could help you with this run. Any card that lets you retain your hand is interesting. When you retain your hand, the last card in your previous hand is your starting point for the new hand. So you could use this to your advantage in some circumstances. For anyone who was curious to see if a no direction run was possible, where you don't press left, right, up or down, I gave it a few attempts and I was making it pretty far. But I just want to warn you, the match and keep event will kill your run straight away. You cannot get past this event without pressing up, down, left or right. Overall, here are my final thoughts. I would love to see someone who is more patient and more skilled than me to finish a whole entire run without going left or right. I believe it is possible, I just don't have the patience to fully try it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope there's someone out there brave enough to go all the way and beat a whole entire run without pressing left or right. Hopefully I'll see you in another video. Thanks for watching.
Slay the spire. I'm gonna slay that spire.